Hello folks, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me again. This is going to be a two-part video and I'll add the second element in due course. But it's loosely called a test of freedom. And if you want to know more about today's content, the best thing to do is look up an essay called The Occulted Powers of the English Constitution. Very fitting title and a very fitting message. I'll put a link in the description below. But the freedom or subjection of a people is revealed in the administration of law and justice. If the administration of law rests on arbitrary will, the government becomes a despot and the people become slaves. But freedom exists when the rule of decision is grounded in natural equity and natural justice. So the real mechanisms of the English Constitution, the ones that safeguard common law and our inalienable rights, are known only to a few. For most people, they've been concealed, but even many scholars miss them and judges choose to ignore them. Because the authentic common law constitution has been buried under centuries of miseducation and political self-interest. The illusion of sovereignty. You see, we need constitutional limitations, real limitations. Without them, any government can slowly write itself into absolute power. And that's exactly what's happening. The government is ultimately subordinate to the sovereignty of the people, not the other way around. No voting matters, but voting alone isn't enough. Most people believe their only influence is choosing a representation, but the party system puts party before people. It has created the uniparty that everyone now complains about. A crucial reminder, it's not the job of the people's government to decide what is just and then enforce its own decisions. That is the very definition of dictatorship. If government holds the power to punish without the authority of the people will eventually fear their own government, as is happening today. So the real question then becomes, is there a mechanism other than voting that lets the people judge the justice and fairness of the law itself? And there is. But it has been carefully obscured for centuries. By the way, folks, if you enjoy this, if you like this content, please hit the like, also the subscribe button. It does help get the message out and help this channel to grow. Thank you. So the authentic trial by jury is the solution. And yes, this hidden mechanism is just trial by jury. But not the modern version, the authentic version. The one described in the Magna Carta of 1215. Judicium parium. The judgment of peers. But even that alone nowadays causes controversy, as the demographic has changed so much here. But what we have today is in fact a watered down imitation, a shadow of what the common law intended. See, in authentic common law, the petty jury of 12 was not just a finder of facts, it was the highest law council in the land. You may know the phrases petty sessions or even assizes versus magistrates and crown courts as they are today. It's two very different jurisdictions. Common law courts versus administrative courts. But the jury's true power was to judge the law and the fact. And that's the part that's been hidden deliberately. The jury, the jurata, were the sole judges of law and fact. The judge was merely the chair, the facilitator, not the authority. Jurors were expected to use conscience, natural justice, to look for intention or mens rea and not just the letter of any statute. And their deliberation was private, without coercion, without persuasion, and without pressure. And as David Hume, a Scottish philosopher, called it, the institution most admirable for the preservation of liberty ever devised by the wit of man. And yes, sometimes juries do get it wrong, but that still is a better system than allowing government to be judge and executioner. How do the people govern? Well, the true mechanism is called annulment by jury, or today they call it jury nullification. If the jury believes the law is unjust, they can refuse to convict. That verdict annuls the law for that specific case. And that has happened recently several times where climate clowns have been let off. So judges do clearly allow it when it suits. But also in common law, there is no precedent. Every case stands alone. And here's the key part, the verdict. It must be unanimous. If even one juror says not guilty, the verdict is not guilty. Common law protects the thoughtful minority, that one juror who sees what others missed. In the same manner, it also favours the minority against the might of the state. And that is why governments hate it. It blocks state power. It blocks political agendas. It blocks authoritarian drift. And this is the true meaning of a consent of the governed. A government cannot punish without the consent of the people expressed through a jury. This places the people in a higher jurisdiction than Parliament. And acts of Parliament must sit within the constitutional framework. They cannot rewrite it. They cannot elevate themselves above it. But they have done so, and done so unlawfully, because these mechanisms have been hidden. And then we come into the failure of monarchs and the lords. Now all acts of Parliament must be ratified by the monarch. And it's their role under the coronation oath. The Crown is forbidden from approving any laws that are repugnant to the 1215 Magna Carta. The Lords, originally a non-appointed permanent safeguard, were meant to block political overreach. That safeguard has dissolved and sycophants now fill the chamber. And yes. So the Magna Carta is not a statute. It is the ancient customary law of the land. Legum terra. The people's enduring agreement with the Crown. And later revisions in 1225 and 1297 were outside Parliament's authority. Modern courts rarely acknowledge this. So in short, this means restoring democracy as it was intended. When the true power of the jury is understood, the word democracy finally regains meaning. Government becomes what it should be, an administration, a public service, nothing more. Majority voting alone, it can be dangerous. It can legitimise the expansion of state power without any constitutional consent or even constraint. And placing laws before a jury with a real person facing a real punishment with real consequences forces a painstaking and meticulous examination of fairness, examining motive, context, state of mind, and all weighed carefully. and thus the courtroom becomes a forensic chamber of inquiry, a cathedral of justice, where the people stand above the state. Because in the true common law constitution, the people, through the jury, are the final arbiters of the law. And any government that enforces its laws without appealing to the people for that consent is, by definition, an absolute government. And that's where we are today. That's where we're heading. But do tell me your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Hope you found this really interesting, and I will see you again soon in the next one. Take care.